He's a nice guy who finally got the girl.
You should be happy for us,
she said, leaving me for her best friend. So I disappeared without a word. 2 months later, she's isolated, monitored, and begging for a rescue I won't send. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. It wasn't a quake, just a hairline fracture. So fine, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Sarah was curled on the far end of our couch, her phone casting a bluish glow on her face. A smile played on her lips, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. "Mark is just so funny," she said, not looking up from the screen. "He sent me this meme that totally sums up my entire creative block. It's like he's inside my head." I looked up from my book. The one about the hamster on the wheel. "He sent that to me too this morning." Her smile didn't falter, but it tightened at the edges. "Oh well, it hits different when it's about art. You know, he gets the struggle." I went back to my book, the words blurring into a meaningless jumble. Mark. Always Mark. Sarah's childhood best friend. The perennial nice guy. The ever-present specter in our relationship. His name was the punctuation to half our conversations. I tried to shake it off. I was the one living with her. I was the one she came home to. But a cold, small stone of doubt had settled in my gut. A flashback hit me, sharp and unwelcome. Her birthday, 3 months ago. I'd spent weeks planning it. A private dinner at that tiny Italian place she loved, followed by tickets to see that indie band she'd obsessed over for months. It was personal, thoughtful. Mark's gift arrived by courier at 10 a.m. A massive, extravagant bouquet of exotic flowers and a necklace from a designer I knew she followed but could never afford. The card read, "For the most incredible woman I know, never stop shining. M." She'd spent the day posting pictures of the flowers, tagging him, her captions filled with exclamation points. "Best friend ever. He just gets me." Our intimate dinner felt like an afterthought that night. The band's music a dull roar behind the glow of her phone screen as she texted him her thanks. The memory was still a fresh bruise when the real blow landed a week later. We were in the kitchen, me washing dishes, her leaning against the counter, scrolling. "Ugh, my portfolio website is such a mess," she sighed, a dramatic, world-weary sound. "I need a complete overhaul." "I can take a look this weekend," I offered. "I'm pretty decent with that stuff. We can build something clean together." She waved a dismissive hand. "No, it's okay. Mark already offered. He said it's the least he can do to support my artistic journey." She said the last 2 words with a faux pretentious air, but her eyes were sincere. "He's got a real eye for design. It's going to be amazing." That was the pebble that started the avalanche. I put the plate down carefully, my hands wet and pruned. "Sarah, we need to talk about Mark." She finally looked up from her phone, her expression a mask of impatient confusion. "What about him?" "It's just, he's always here. Physically, digitally. It feels like he's the third person in this relationship sometimes." Her face hardened instantly. The warmth vanished, replaced by a chilling defensiveness. "Leo, come on. Don't be that guy. It's so unattractive." "What guy? The guy who wants to feel like his girlfriend's first choice?" "Mark is a nice guy," she said, as if that phrase explained and excused everything. "He's my best friend. He's been in my life since I was 7. He's my person. If you can't accept that, maybe you're not as secure as I thought you were." She shook her head, a gesture of profound disappointment aimed directly at me. "He's harmless. Why are you so threatened by him?" There it was, the masterstroke. My legitimate feeling of being sidelined was neatly repackaged and handed back to me as my own personal failing. my insecurity, my problem. I felt the argument rising in my throat. The list of times he'd coincidentally dropped by, the inside jokes I was excluded from, the way her whole demeanor brightened when his name popped up on her screen. But I saw it in her eyes. Any evidence I presented would just be further proof of my paranoia. I was being gaslit, and the lamp was held by the nice guy. I just nodded, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. Right. Harmless. I turned back to the sink, the silence between us now thick and heavy. The fracture was no longer a hairline. It was a chasm, and standing on the other side of it wasn't just Sarah. It was Sarah and Mark, a united front against my unreasonable jealousy. She'd chosen her side, and for the first time she'd said it out loud. She just hadn't used the words yet. That would come later. The crack became a canyon 2 Thursdays later. I was supposed to be in San Jose until Friday afternoon, wrapping up a client presentation. But we'd nailed it a day early. The client was ecstatic, and my boss told us to take an early flight home, a bonus Friday. I thought about texting Sarah, but an impulse took hold. I'd surprise her. Pick up her favorite Thai food, maybe some flowers from the corner stall. Simple, real flowers, not whatever exotic arrangement Mark's credit card could conjure. The Uber pulled up to our apartment building just after 7 p.m. The evening was warm, and the city had that golden hour glow that usually made me feel lucky to be alive. I felt a genuine flicker of excitement. Maybe we could reconnect. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe I could find a way to be more secure. Then I saw it, parked directly under our living room window, in the spot I usually fought for on weekends, was Mark's obnoxiously pristine canary yellow Jeep Wrangler. The stone in my gut turned to lead. My key felt cold in my hand. The Thai food suddenly smelled greasy and sickening. The walk up the 3 flights of stairs was the longest of my life. Each step was a hammer blow to my hope. I didn't hear anything from the hallway. No laughter, no music. Just a dead, ominous silence. I slid my key into the lock as quietly as I could, the click echoing like a gunshot in the quiet hall. I pushed the door open. The scene was domestic, but all wrong. 2 wine glasses sat on the coffee table, one with lipstick on the rim. The takeout containers weren't Thai. They were from the overpriced sushi place Mark loved. And on the couch, sitting just a little too close for just friends, were Sarah and Mark. They weren't tangled up. They weren't even touching. But the intimacy in the space between them was a physical thing. She was curled towards him, her body language an open book he was reading. He was leaning in, a smug, knowing smile on his face that vanished the second he saw me. Sarah's head snapped around. Her eyes went wide, not with guilt, but with annoyance, like I was a parent who'd caught her past curfew. "Leo, what are you doing home?" The bag of Thai food slipped from my numb fingers, hitting the floor with a soft, pathetic thud. "Finished early." My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Mark had the decency to look uncomfortable. He straightened up, running a hand through his hair. "Hey man, we were just going over Sarah's new website design." I didn't even look at him. My eyes were locked on Sarah. "His car's been here since last night." Sarah, Mrs. Gable in 2B, waters her plants at 7 a.m. She saw it. She asked me if we had a visitor. The lie died on her lips. The annoyance in her eyes hardened into something colder, more defiant. She looked from me to Mark and then back, as if weighing her options. She didn't choose me. Okay, fine. She let out a long sigh, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "It just happened, Leo." The room tilted. "What just happened?" "This." She gestured vaguely between her and Mark. "Us." It was inevitable. He knows me. He knows all of me. Our history. You could never understand it. He's loved me since we were kids. Each word was a precise surgical cut. Mark puffed out his chest slightly, a glint of triumph in his eyes. He'd won. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, for the just kidding, for anything that would make this nightmare make sense. Nothing came. So all that talk, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. That he's like a brother, that I'm being insecure, the nice guy. That was all just... It was the truth, she insisted, but her eyes flickered. But feelings change. They evolved. He's been my rock through everything while you were just here. Present. Stable. She said the word like it was a disease. Mark couldn't help himself. He put a possessive hand on her knee. It's okay, babe. He was never going to get it. Sarah placed her hand over his. A united front. She looked back at me, and she delivered the kill shot. It wasn't shouted. It was stated with a calm, breathtaking cruelty. He's a nice guy who finally got the girl. You should be happy for us. After all, he sacrificed for me, waiting in the wings all this time. He deserves this. He deserves to be happy. The air left my lungs. I looked at this woman I had loved, shared a home with, planned a future with. I saw a stranger. A selfish, cruel stranger who had just reduced our entire relationship to a supporting role in Mark's grand romantic narrative. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal. It all rose in a scorching wave, and for a second I thought I would scream. I thought I would throw something. I thought I would beg, but I didn't. I looked from her smug, entitled face to Mark's victorious grin, and a profound, icy calm washed over me. The storm wasn't gone. It was just frozen solid. A quiet, almost amused observation escaped my lips. So my role was to keep the seat warm until he decided to claim his prize. Sarah opened her mouth, probably to spin another justification, but I didn't wait to hear it. I didn't need to. The script was written, and I was no longer a character in it. I turned my back on them, on the life we'd built, on the lie it had all been. I didn't look at the pictures on the wall or the books on the shelf. I walked out of the apartment, stepping over the spilled Thai food, and closed the door softly behind me. The hallway was silent. The door clicked shut. It was the most definitive sound I had ever heard. The silence in my buddy Eric's spare room was a physical presence. It was heavy, but it was clean. It didn't have the ghosts of conversations that had just happened. It was mine. The first night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the air mattress, staring at the ceiling, the scene in the apartment playing on a loop. Each time, the cold calm I'd felt at the end would spread a little further, numbing the raw edges of the betrayal. He's a nice guy who finally got the girl. The absurdity of it began to outweigh the pain. It was a bad line from a worse movie. The next morning, I made a list. Not an emotional one, a logistical one. A plan of action. It was the only thing that kept me from screaming. Get keys from Super. Get boxes. Move out when she's at work. Block everywhere. I executed it with a detached military precision. I called the building super. Told him I'd lost my key and needed to get in. He grumbled, but made a copy. I went to a U-Haul place and bought 20 small boxes. I didn't want to waste time assembling big ones. On Tuesday, I knew Sarah worked a 10-hour shift at the design firm. I took the day off. I walked into the apartment at 9:15 a.m. It was exactly as I'd left it. The 2 wine glasses still on the table, the sushi containers in the trash. The Thai food I'd dropped was still on the floor by the door, a greasy stain on the wood. I didn't pause. I didn't look at the photos on the mantel. I didn't sit on the couch where it had happened. I was a ghost, methodically dismantling my own existence from the space. I took only what was unequivocally mine. My clothes, my books, my vinyl collection, my laptop, the set of professional knives my grandfather gave me. I left anything that was ours. The TV, the couch, the garish vase her mother gave us that we both hated. I left the bed. I wouldn't sleep in it again. The work was mechanical, numbing. Each box taped shut was a door closing. By 2 p.m., my car was packed. The apartment looked largely the same, just emptier, as if a roommate had moved out, not a fiancé. I did one last walkthrough. The bedroom. The bathroom. I stopped in the doorway of the living room. I took a single, deep breath. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing. A vast, empty neutrality. I took my key off my ring. I walked to the kitchen counter and set it down. It made a final metallic click against the quartz. I walked out and didn't look back. In the car, I did step 4. I pulled out my phone, blocked her number, blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. I didn't deactivate my accounts. I just removed her. I didn't make a grand statement. I just made myself disappear. Then I drove to Eric's, carried my boxes into the spare room, and closed the door. The silence welcomed me back. It was my armor. The next few weeks were a blur of routine. I went to work. I answered, "I'm fine," to the few concerned queries from mutual friends. I didn't offer details. I went to the gym every day, pushing my body until it was too tired to feel anything. I reconnected with friends Sarah had subtly pushed me away from. I didn't talk about her. We just played video games, drank beer, and existed. I was sitting with the unfairness. I was letting it wash over me without drowning in it. The pain was a tide, sometimes high, sometimes low. But I was learning to let it recede on its own, without chasing it. I was learning the power of silence. It wasn't a void. It was a space I was filling with myself for the first time in years. The first crack in their perfect world came through a text from Jess, Sarah's oldest friend. After Mark, it was 3 weeks after I'd left. Jess: "Hey Leo, haven't heard from you in a bit. Everything okay?" Sarah's been quiet. I stared at the message. It felt like a probe. I didn't know what Sarah had told people. That I'd moved out in a jealous rage. Probably that the insecure boyfriend couldn't handle her finding true love with her soulmate. I typed back, careful, neutral. Me. "All good here. Just needed some space. Hope she's well." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and appeared again for a long time. Jess: "She's not. Mark is a lot. He never leaves her alone. Showed up at our lunch last week and just sat there scrolling through her phone. It was weird." I didn't respond. It wasn't my circus. Not my monkeys. The phrase became my mantra. But the rumors kept coming, seeping through the cracks in the foundation of their new relationship. Eric heard from his girlfriend, who was in a group chat with some other women from Sarah's college. "Dude, apparently the nice guy is a full-on warden," Eric said one night over pizza. "Got in a screaming match with some guy who complimented Sarah's hair at a bar last weekend. Accused the guy of hitting on her. Sarah was mortified." Another week passed. Then a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Tim, one of Sarah's coworkers. A genuinely good guy who I'd always liked. "Leo, hey man. Oh, listen, this is probably way out of line, but I'm a little worried. Sarah missed 2 deadlines this week. She never does that. And she looks tired, jumpy. That guy Mark, he calls her like 5 times a day. She takes the calls in the hallway and comes back looking like she's about to cry. I don't know what happened with you guys, and it's none of my business, but I just thought you should know. Hope you're good, man." The picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. The nice guy wasn't nice. He was needy, insecure, possessive. His entire identity had been built around waiting for her. And now that he had her, the fear of losing her was turning him toxic. He wasn't her soulmate. He was her jailer. He was isolating her, monitoring her, draining the vibrant, independent woman I'd fallen for right out of her. The history she'd valued so much wasn't a foundation. It was a chain, and he was pulling it tighter and tighter. I felt a sickening twist in my stomach. Not jealousy, not a desire to have her back. It was pity, mixed with a dark, cold sense of vindication. She had chosen chaos, disguised as passion. She had chosen a dictator over a partner. She had left a life of quiet respect for a gilded cage, and she was already hearing the lock click shut behind her. Karma wasn't a lightning bolt. It was a slow, creeping frost, and it was freezing her world solid. And I was, for the first time, genuinely glad to be on the outside, in the clean, quiet cold I had built for myself. The first attempt was almost laughable in its lack of originality. A text from a number with an area code I didn't recognize. Unknown number. Leo, it's Sarah. I think I made a huge mistake. Can we talk? It arrived on a Saturday morning. I was sipping coffee, reading a book. The quiet of Eric's apartment undisturbed, when it landed like a bomb. I read the message once. Then I deleted it and blocked the number. The action was clean, clinical. It required no thought. My peace was not a negotiation. A week later, my phone buzzed with a call from Carol D., Sarah's mother. Leo, honey, it's Carol. Hi, Carol. My voice was flat, a neutral tone I'd been practicing. Oh, Leo, it's so awful. She launched in, her voice a dramatic whisper. She's miserable. That Mark is a controlling little weasel. He monitors her texts. Can you believe it? She cries herself to sleep every night. She made a mistake. We all see that now. But you know her heart. You know how impulsive she can be. I said nothing. I let the silence on my end stretch, forcing her to fill it. You need to be the bigger man here, Leo. She'll listen to you. You were always the sensible one. You have to talk to her. She's throwing her life away. Ah, there it was. The summons. My role, even in exile, was to be the stabilizer, the fixer, the one who cleaned up the mess so everyone else could stay comfortable. Carol, I said, my voice still calm, devoid of the sympathy she was fishing for. I'm sorry you're going through that. It sounds very stressful, but Sarah's choices are her own. I can't help you. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. This wasn't the script. I was supposed to sigh, to say, I know, Carol, to agree to be the sacrificial lamb for the sake of the family's equilibrium. But Leo, I hope things work out for her. Goodbye, Carol. I ended the call and blocked her. Number 2. The circle of silence around me tightened. It felt stronger. The third attempt was the mask fully coming off. It was late on a weeknight. The caller ID showed another unknown number, but I had a feeling. I answered, saying nothing. A choked sob echoed down the line. Leo. Her voice was raw, slurry. She'd been drinking. I remained silent. Why are you doing this to me? The plea turned sharp, accusatory in the span of a second. How can you be so cruel? I said I was sorry. What more do you want? I need you. I could hear her breathing, ragged and wet. The performance wasn't working, and her frustration boiled over. Are you happy now? She shrieked, the sound grating against my ear. I'm suffering, and you're just nothing. You're just as cold and emotionless as he is. You're both the same. There it was. The true colors blazing through the tears. It was never about remorse. It was about utility. I was a tool she needed, and I had the audacity to be unavailable. Her anger was the pure, undiluted rage of the entitled being denied. I didn't speak. I didn't hang up. I just held the phone, a silent witness to her unraveling, until she finally gasped a wet, furious curse and ended the call herself. I placed the phone back on the nightstand. The room was quiet again. I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just a profound, final confirmation that I had made the right choice. The last thread, whatever it was, had been severed. The email arrived 2 days later. The sender address was a jumble of letters and numbers. sdremember.@gmail.com, a desperate secret channel, crafted from a place of utter isolation. The subject line was blank. The body was a waterfall of text, a rambling, unpunctuated plea that swung between self-pity, blame-shifting, and abject desperation. Leo, I don't know if you'll get this. He checks everything. My phone, my emails, everything. This is the only way. I can't do this anymore. It's a prison. He isn't who I thought he was. He gets so angry. He says it's because he loves me too much, but it's scary. Leo, I'm scared. I have no one. He made me push everyone away. Just everyone. And I was so stupid. I thought it was passion, but it's just control. I think about you every day, about how safe I felt, how you never looked at me like I was a possession. You looked at me like I was a person. I made the worst mistake of my life. I need you to save me. Please, just let me come home. I can't breathe here. Please. I read it once. Then I read it again, slower. I looked for genuine accountability in the word vomit. I found only fear and a desperate desire to be rescued. I need you to save me. Not I want to fix what I broke. Not I understand what I did to you. She just wanted out of the cage she'd chosen. And I was the nearest exit. For a moment, the ghost of the old me stirred. The protector. The fixer, the guy who would have moved heaven and earth to ease her pain. But that guy had been dismantled, box by box, and left in an apartment with a key on the counter. I opened a new reply. My fingers hovered over the keys. The silence in my apartment was complete. This wasn't about anger. It wasn't about revenge. It was about drawing a line in the sand so deep and so permanent that not even her desperation could cross it. It was about protecting the peace I had fought for. I began to type. My response was measured, calm, definitive. To sdremember@gmail.com. Subject. Read, Sarah. I received your email. I'm sorry you're in a difficult situation, but it is one you chose with full awareness. You told me I should be happy for you both because he's a nice guy who finally got the girl. You told me he deserved to be happy. I hope he is. Now, you were right about one thing. My role in your story is over. My responsibility now is to protect the peace and happiness I've built for myself since I left. That peace is not negotiable. And it does not include reopening a door I closed permanently. I do not wish you harm, but I am entirely indifferent to your happiness. That chapter is closed. Do not contact me again. Leo, I read it over once. It was perfect. It was calm. It was firm. It was a vault door closing. I hit send. Then I selected her email and dragged it to the trash. I emptied the trash folder. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. I looked out the window at the city lights. They looked the same as they had 10 minutes ago. And yet, everything was different. It was finally completely over. The silence in the room was no longer just an absence of sound. It was a presence, and it was entirely my own. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.